much, Mitch. And thank you to SparkLabs, Cultiv8, JJ and Mal for the opportunity to be a part of this cohort. It's been amazing and I really appreciate it. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to give you a bit of an understanding of what Downforce does. So we all know Australia is big and the numbers are massive around what agriculture covers. But there's more and more time and requirements being spent to us for reporting, what our impact is on nature. There's requirements from the EU, from the UN, from local government, from suppliers, from retailers who are looking for this information. And it's time consuming and difficult to get consistent data out. And when you look at it at the average Australian farm size, 12 days per year you might go and spend to do at the legal requirement of collecting information to be able to make this sourcing information. But that's a one time. You're doing that one time of that assessment, and they've got to try to make correlations for the whole year. What Downforce does is we are able to create, through millions of data points, a view and an understanding of what your property is actually doing. What are you doing with soil carbon? And that's a moniker for soil health. And so how do we give you an understanding of the way that your property is reacting and then the potential that it has to be able to do that? The biodiversity, health, and the way that that intersects, and just what Adrian was talking about in terms of the bees and Varroa, all of this comes together to be needed to have a really strong food system and the way that we can manage that. So as I said, we have millions of data points, and lots of people come to me and say, oh, we need to have the ground truth. We use ground truth data within our systems, but what we do is we then reassess and review every 10 days that same information. And we're looking at global data sets and understanding information that allows us to get a really high resolution detail of your property that shows what's been happening over time. And again, what does this mean to you as a producer, or you as a supplier, or you as a bank? You're getting the same data as on the field that you can use in the boardroom or in a finance acquisition. And this is what we provide. And this information, every time I present this to a new customer, the feedback is really, really strong. We go back 6 years, so we're able to validate and show this is exactly what I was doing in my property. I understand why there was this change in this paddock and what I was doing and what the results were of drought and of floods, and able to get that understanding. But this same information is then able to be sent up and used by a supply chain, by a bank, to be able to see that climate resilience and understand from the data that's being used and can be used at a property level, but also taken up into a global level. This information can be used for sustainable management on the ground. It can be used by supply chains, as I said, carbon markets. So we all know that everything's coming around with insetting, offsetting, voluntary markets, regulatory markets, and we're able to provide a fine resolution ability to be able to look at that information, and everyone has the same view. And then finance, it's a costly game. Agriculture always needs investment, and all of this push towards resilience and the ability for us to be able to manage our agriculture needs money. And if the banks have the information that's exactly the same as the person on the ground, then the ability to be able to leverage that and to be able to make great decisions for both parties is going to be paramount. So I wanted to give you an example of a customer that we're working with. So this is Good Earth Cotton. They have Good Earth Cotton shirts, which are this ecologically carbon positive and traceable cotton that's been made by the Statham, Danielle and David Statham up in Keita and in Moree. They wanted to be able to wear the cotton that they grew, and they didn't want to be able to sort of say half-heartedly that yes, it comes from around our area, maybe it's ours. They've actually used a technology that puts a rare earth mineral into the cotton, and it can be traced. But they also wanted to make it carbon positive. They wanted to show that the way that they were making their cotton, the way they were producing, was actually a carbon positive. And so they needed the data, like this on the left-hand side here, to be able to get down to a paddock level and understand where that bale had come from. They had the traceability, and then they also had the carbon factor as well. But David says himself that on the right here, being able to show that journey and show how they've improved their business is something that really resonates with brands. And it could be a brand over in the UK, the US, or in Europe. So that's just an example of the way that this information can be used down at a paddock level, but also can be used up at the head of a supply chain. And we're not just talking to the Stathams, we're working with banks. We're also doing work with universities. We've just been down in Wagga with the Global Digital Farm down there. La Trobe has been doing a lot of work across farm scale natural capital accounts, but we're also global. So we've come from the genesis of the whole company has come from a lady called Jacqueline McGlade. She's the ex-chief scientist for the UN Environmental Programme and also a director at the the European Environmental Agency. And her ability to understand and see where the data sources were and the ability to be able to understand what could be interrogated and how we could get that resolution has been paramount in our success. And that's all then come through with the ability for us to now have, and we've just been awarded both of these in the last 3 weeks, an ISO accreditation and a US patent. So when people are looking at ways to be able to review and understand what your natural capital assets are, being able to then take that validation with an internationally recognised certification is super powerful. So I'd like to sort of give you a snap of our vision and the understanding that we want to make every hectare count. The ability to be able to assess a whole property and a whole supply chain, a whole climate risk on a portfolio of investments, and allow you to be able to achieve that climate, biodiversity and security goals. Downforce is currently looking for more clients, both in all areas of the sector. As I said, in finance, supply chains, properties. We've done assessments up to millions of hectares, all the way down to thousands of hectares. So we'd love to talk to you, and we'll be also doing a Series A raise in 2024. Thank you again, and look forward to talking to you soon.